Hi, welcome to WiseCat. So in this video, in a continuation with our hot fun server, what we're going to do is install Moodle on it. To install Moodle, we're actually going to need a few more pieces of software as well. We're going to need a web server. So for this one, I'll use Nginx, PostgreSQL, and we're going to need PHP to be installed. So I've actually made together a cheat sheet of all the commands I'm going to need, and I'm going to use this and build the server on our Linode here. So if you haven't seen part 1 and part 2 of this series, then they'll be in the same playlist. But yeah, this is just how to get really up and running. There are many different ways that you can actually do this. You don't have to use Nginx. You can use Apache or Lighty or any other web server you choose. Or you can choose not to use PostgreSQL. You could use MariaDB or MySQL. There are many different ways. Today I am not covering all of them. I'm covering what I believe to be perhaps the simplest and most educational of them. So let's get to it, shall we? So we have our hot fun server here. I've logged into my Linode here now, and I've got these two IP addresses here. So I'm going to copy that IPv4 just by clicking on the copy thing. And the first thing I want to do is actually set up the domain name. So, oh, I'm also gigantic, am I not? Oh dear, that will not do. Shrink me. Yeah, that is better. Okay, I was a little bit overbearing, wasn't I? Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So, hotfundownunder.fun. Great. We open up the page, and this is where you can add domain name records to this as well. It's a little bit beyond the scope to say, you know, how you registered the domain name with as name server with Linode. But basically, you buy a name from someone like Namecheap or somewhere else, and then you hit create domain, and you can basically just have the name servers be Linode name servers. And you have to actually program the main name servers on that external place where you bought the domain names. You set up the domain name servers so it's ns1.linode.com and ns2.linode.com, ns3. These are the name servers. They have to be set somewhere else. But that's a little bit beyond the scope here. Rabbit hole keeps going a bit deeper. So, and then there's DNS second. Anyway, beginner style. Here we go. Stick with it. So all we want to do is we want to just add for hotfundownunder.fun, just without anything beforehand, nothing .hotfundownunder.fun, just the IP address itself. We're just going to add that IPv4 address, and default TTL is fine. That's how long before it needs to be refreshed. So I've got that. That's the IPv4 address, and there's a second one called an IPv6 address, which we'll also grab over here. And the difference is basically old school internet, new school internet. Yeah, beyond that also, yeah, nothing to worry about. So we're going to add these two in here. Oh, not a CNAME. No. There are many different styles of DNS record, many different types. What we're interested in adding right now, because we just want to serve web requests, are the A or AAAA records. A records are just match a URL with an IP address, so that's this one here. And AAAA, that does it for IPv6, so the new school, the newfangled one over here. Yeah, both of those allow the maximum connectability. It just makes everything flow. It's IPv6 ready. We're good to go. And so that's all we actually have to do in Linode now. So, yeah, see you later, Linode screen. And what I do want now is our command line. So, I'm going to full screen this and maybe make the font a little bit bigger. How's that? Okay, so I'm going to log in as root here first. Boom. And this is now where I will start bringing up my cheat sheet. And I might just put the cheat sheet just off screen for you guys, but totally visible for me. And rightio. So the first thing that I'm going to do is install a whole bunch of stuff. This is, I've actually turned this into a single command, but it should work. Well, actually, before we... yeah, okay. I know. You'll see a lot of sudo in here because I was sort of thinking I might change the user to... okay, normally I wouldn't actually like to continue using the root user here, but because this is sort of, I'm just talking about installing Moodle, I don't really want to go too far into all the other stuff that I could do. So I'm just going to do this. So this is installing a whole bunch of packages. We got the UFW in case it's not installed. It is. We did that in the last video. rsync, which is great for copying files across. It's a useful utility. Git, htop. I just install these ones by default because I like them. Git we actually do need for getting the Moodle code. Then there's snapd, which is good for the certbot stuff, and it's good to make sure that those are installed. Nginx, there's our Nginx web server, PHP FPM, and that's our PHP, and PHP PGSQL, that enables PHP to connect to PostgreSQL. If you are using MySQL, you have to actually change this one to PHP-MySQL. Curl and a few other things that I know that Moodle is going to ask for out of the box. PHP YAML I think actually is only needed if you're using the stack question type, but anyway, it's there. It's not going to hurt me. And PostgreSQL itself as the database engine also is installed there. Over here, after the ampersands here, I'm also going to use snap to install the core and make sure that the core is refreshed and everything, and then to install the certbot thing. So that allows me to change the HTTP to HTTPS painlessly and for free. So that's cool. So okay, let's install all of that. And that should all go through nicely. It's also perhaps worth mentioning that if you do not have, if you don't have if you haven't updated the apt yet, then some of these things will probably actually fail. But the simple way to get over that is to just to have sudo apt update, and all of the software lists should come good. They'll be refreshed. So here we go. Boom, boom, boom. We've got PHP 7.4 is in there, and now we're on to the snap part of it. Snap is a different kind of installing system, but snap is commonly used these days with certbot because dependencies are no longer a problem if you use the snap. So it's a good thing. I mean, HTTPS is something that you don't want to break down. So that's all good. And we've got the snap core is coming in, and certbot is now being installed. And that part has completed. So that's all the basic software that we're going to need for Moodle. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is create a Moodle directory, and I'm going to use another one of my magic cheat sheet commands to do that. And we've got making a directory here, and this is for, where are we going to make it? We're going to make it in /srv/moodle/moodle data. That's our data directory, which I'm actually making first. And then afterwards, I'm changing the owner and everything to the web server user, which is going to be www.data. That's what it always is on Debian systems. If you're using, say, CentOS or something, again, that's going to be different. So CentOS is sort of going out of the way of the dodo, but I think Alma Linux also probably uses HTTPD or Apache or something instead. Don't remember. Anyway, after that's done, we're going to go into /srv/Moodle, and we're going to clone in a Moodle Git from Git and put that into the www thing. And then we're going to, straight after that, set it up to track branch 311, and we're going to set it to check out the 311 branch, and then it's going to, we're going to change directory into that and actually let the www data user also be the group associated with that www folder, and allow read and write permissions to www, which will be kind of useful because later we'll be able to use that to install, when we're installing, if it's got read write permissions, it'll be able to create the config.php on the fly. So let's do that. So now it's cloning, and this can take a few minutes. There is another repository, actually, not github.com, but git.moodle.org. Recently, I've been noticing that one's been kind of slow, so today I'm just using github.com because I don't really want to be here all night. Anyway, that is actually doing all of the setup of the Moodle code that I'm going to need. With the one exception, I guess, of the config PHP, but even it's ready to receive that. So the actual Moodle code, the stuff that comes from Moodle.org is going in right now. Everything we need. So, I mean, a lot of these things are one-off sort of things that you're just going to add once. But if you use Git for getting your Moodle code, then it's, well, the version control it's a version control system, Git is. So doing it this way means that you're going to find it much easier to upgrade, switch branches, do, yeah, it's a good investment in the future. You're thinking about the future, then you want to do this. Okay, but it is taking a while, so what I'm going to do is pause the video, and then through the magic of unpausing it later, oh, just as I said that, look at that. Would you look at that? And that's always the way, isn't it? Okay, I won't pause the video then. Okay, I'll just put my cheat sheet back there. Okay, so that's done there. The next thing that we're going to want to do is configure an Nginx virtual host for Moodle. So Nginx, the web server, is there, but it does not yet know what to do when somebody accesses this server. Oh, what am I supposed to do? So we're going to actually tell it by setting up a configuration file. And this configuration file is also going to be in the description below, unless YouTube tells me I'm not allowed to do that. But I'm just pasting it in here. Here's one we baked earlier. Okay, so there are a few important parts here. The root directive, this actually says, okay, when somebody accesses the server, this is where the Moodle code is stored. Right? If you change where that's stored, you can change that. The server name, this actually tells the server, okay, what URL should we expect to see? And you can actually leave that as default, but later on when we're changing it over from HTTP to HTTPS, which will happen very soon, this will be really useful. Okay, now because we're actually going to do that, actually another thing that I might do right now is I'm going to set up a second root directive. And I'll just say /var/www/html, I think exists. And I'm going to comment out this one at the top here. Now remember that I've done that because I'm going to be undoing it later. This is the default location for Nginx. So it will actually send stuff there, but it won't actually point us to our Moodle until we're ready. When will we be ready? Well, we'll be ready after we have enabled HTTPS. Okay, so HTTP if we start up the Moodle install on HTTP, that can be a little bit annoying because later on then we've got to convert it over, we've got to edit more files and stuff like that. So better to actually do this as an interim step here. Okay, client max body size, I've just set that to 2 gigabytes, but which is kind of ridiculously big, but there are two systems that will limit how big a file it is that you can upload. Nginx will limit that, and PHP will limit that. So I've got this directive in here so that Nginx limits it to 2 gigabytes, which is massive. Okay, down below that, we have the location directives, one for root and just try to serve as a file and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And here's this chunk here is telling it what to do with PHP file requests. And so we're doing a standard install with PHP FPM, so it'll be using the socket here, var run php 7.4.sock. This is pretty standard stuff here. And these configurations are recommendations from the Moodle.org website and everything. So these are actually, for example, if you have a 404 page, somebody's trying to access a page that doesn't actually exist, it will send the message, it'll ask the message to actually go to a Moodle error page so that Moodle can style it and send messages itself. And if it's a 403, yeah, just same as 404, man. Don't even tell them that it's 403. 403 means, you're not allowed to go in there. But it's a bit of a security concern if people realize that, oh, I've found some place I'm not supposed to go into. Ooh, I wonder if I can find a way to actually get in there. If you just tell them there's nothing there, then it's less of it's kind of security through obscurity, but it's, it doesn't cost you anything to have this in place anyway. And if you ever need it to be switched off, you can switch it off. Hide all dot files, etc. as well, another good one, return 404, and all these other things like the composer directories and other things like that. You might want to keep that stuff hidden. So just deny all and return 404s if anybody asks. All right, just say, no, it's nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Okay, and the last directives here, which are often actually at the top, these ones are port 80. Listen on port 80. And this is the IPv6 version, and this is the IPv4 version. So listen on port 80 here, what it's actually telling the server to do is to receive HTTP requests, not HTTPS yet. And if you get HTTPS, well, ignore it. This doesn't even consider HTTPS a thing yet. Okay, so anyway, we're going to save that, and we'll exit out of that. And we'll check to make sure our configuration is actually okay with a command sudo nginx -t. And this will actually look over the configuration and make sure it's okay. And of course it's okay at the moment, because what we did was we edited the sites available area. In order to actually enable this to be ready to go, what we have to do is do a link, a symlink to the sites enabled directory. So, which actually I am trying to do a smooth save right now, but I forgot to do this step. Okay, so much for the save. Okay, so now that's enabled there. There's that's actually been moved there because if I go here now, there's no ls-la. So now I've got the link here, and I can see that Moodle is here, and it is pointing to this file. And that's all good. And the default here, this is the default web server, web thing. So we're going to remove that. Yeah, don't need it. Goodbye. All right. So there we go. Moodle goes to points to this file that is the file that we just edited. And so now we can do another Nginx test. And of course, I'm actually root user, so I don't need to use this sudo all the time. But force of habit, I tend to use sudo because I'm usually actually not doing this as a root user. But anyway, our Nginx is successful, which is good news for us. Yay! So now the next thing that we can do is restart our Moodle, our Nginx server. And for the first time in forever, we can actually go to our hot fun down under and probably not see anything just yet, but there we go. For the first time in forever. And we notice that this is just going and going and going and not doing anything. And why is that? Well, the reason is because we have it all locked down. There's only port 22 is open. So we have to actually open up some ports now. So we're going to UFW and we'll limit port 80. Limit traffic on port 80. So that now has been added. Port 80, if you remember, was what we added to our Nginx config that said, yeah, port 80, people are accessing it through port 80. So there's your port 80 connection to the Nginx web server. Don't listen on 443 yet, because 443 is the port number for HTTPS. But we haven't got HTTPS. And you see right up here, this is what we've got here. Connection is not secure. And the browser's going to dob us in and say it's not secure. And this is actually a massive security risk if you just run your Moodle on HTTP, because anybody can intercept that traffic. They can see anything. So instead of doing that, what you really want to do is have HTTPS. And this is where certbot is absolutely awesome, because you just type in certbot and --Nginx. And that's pretty much all we're going to need to enable HTTPS. See, what this does is it connects to the Let's Encrypt servers. And it actually checks, verifies that the domain is, hotfundownunder.fun is who it says to be. It says it is. Just that the domain is actually owned by this server. And once it's checked that, that's all it checks. And then it says, okay, we're going to issue us an SSL certificate, a TLS certificate, Transport Layer Security Certificate, that will make that warning in the browser go away. Okay, it's all very cryptographic and everything, and it's great. But the other thing is that these certificates used to cost, a couple of mun for a year, a couple of 100,000, 10,000. It was expensive, and now Certbot does it for free. They only issue certificates that are valid for 90 days, but they automatically renew them as well. So it's all good. So certbot.nginx, here we go. Now they do ask you for an email address, and this is a really good one to actually have in there. Don't worry, they don't spam you, so you just go enter your real email address. The reason to enter this email address is urgent renewal and security notices. If there's a problem with your certificate, if there's a problem coming up, like it wasn't able to renew, it's going to expire in 10 days, what's going on? You might want to look at that. It'll send you an email. They'll send you an email and say, hey, you know that 90-day thing? It's coming to an end. So this is really useful. Definitely add it in there. And then it'll ask, please read the terms of service. I've read them before, so I'm going to answer yes to that one. Do you agree? Totally. Would you be willing to receive our spam? Kind of a judgment call. I have said yes to this in the past, and I am grateful for the emails I get through the Free Software Foundation, but I don't need more of copies of it, so I'm just going to say no to this one right now. All right, which names would you like to activate HTTPS for? Now, on many servers, you might actually have multiple names. This one, we've only got the one, so we just select the one. That's all we have to do there. Now it's requesting the certificate. And deploying the certificate. And that's it. HTTPS is enabled. So that is very, very simple. And now we can go here, and if we refresh our page, oh no, it hangs and it doesn't do anything. Why is that? Well, remember that HTTP goes over port 80, and HTTPS goes to port 443. So what we've got to actually do in here with our firewall is we have to allow access to port 443. So UFW allow 443 will work just fine. Now, what that's done is changed our firewall configuration. So now we have limited connections on 22. So if somebody's trying to brute force the password, trying to guess the password, they want to make 1,000 connections per second, they'll be blocked real quick. Then it's rate limiting thing. And we've rate limited port 80 because most people won't even use port 80. Right? Most people might use port 80 for one request. And that first time they request on port 80, they'll be redirected to port 443. Automatically, certbot will have configured it to rewrite the URL and turn it into HTTPS. So the 443 one we want to be allow because we're going to have lots and lots of connections on lovely encrypted HTTPS. Beautiful. So if we come back here, we can actually see that we have been redirected to HTTPS, right? So, yay, now we've got HTTPS. And now that we have HTTPS, well, we essentially are ready to install our Moodle without having to worry about the config PHP getting all messed up. But we do have one more thing that we have to do before we can install the Moodle, and that is setting up the PostgreSQL database to hold the Moodle data itself. So, oh, what? I don't know why that's happening, but all right, sudo-u postgres PSQL. This is how you log into PostgreSQL. You sudo to change user to do this as user Postgres. Boom, there we go. Oh, okay, well, it's English. Okay, so the locales and everything aren't properly set up. It realizes I'm in Japan stuff. I don't really care. Okay, I'll show you how to fix that a little bit later. It's not really big. I could do it. It's not a big issue. What is important is kind of that this is UTF-8 all the way inside of here, and that's all good. So we'll do that. So we're going to create a user now. A user in terms of as is able to access the Moodle user. So we're going to make a user called MooUser. And you can tell it's getting late, right? And the password is going to be, please use a better password. When you do this on your server, please use a better password. Okay. I'm not going to do this, too rough. It's too rough, but anyway, that's fine. So, PostgreSQL, we have a user that can actually use the database. And we're going to next one, create a database. The database is called Moodle. The user MooUser owns it. So, and with the password, please use a better password, can access that database on localhost, which is the inside the server. That's it. It's done. Now, if you're using MySQL or MariaDB, you might have to mess around with Barracuda and things like that. And this is one of the things where I think that Postgres is easier because you don't have to mess around with that stuff so much. Okay, so let's go out of that. Well, you can /q, but I just did Control-D. And now we are in, we are cooking with grease. So the thing that we have to reverse next is Moodle, which is in our, because we're in the sites enabled folder anyway, so we can just Moodle right here. And we got to change this root back to /srv/Moodle/www, so that the root, instead of pointing to the Nginx page, it points to the Moodle code. And then we'd be ready to actually go for it. So let's do that. Save that. Exit out of there. And now if we try to refresh the page, we get the exact same thing again. Why? Because Nginx configuration was changed, but we have to reload that configuration. So let's come back in here. I did have one just a few seconds ago. Restart Nginx, that'll do. Restarting it should reload it. And now I can refresh this page and voila, we have our hotfan.fun install.php is coming. So here we go, let's do it. English, good. Web address, good. Moodle directory, srv Moodle, good. And the data directory, hey, it's already figured out that srv Moodle data, that's where I want my Moodle data to be. Cool. So let's hit it next. And yes, it is picking up that we want to use PostgreSQL. If the others were installed, there might be options as well up here, but yep, PostgreSQL is good. And the database name is Moodle, and the database user is Mooser. Okay. And yeah, I've used that username before as well. And I'm going to copy that so that I can paste that into this next field. Please use a better password. The rest of these things, tables, prefix, database port, and Nginx socket, don't really need to mess with those things. Not on a small thing where you're only using the one server. Database port might be important if you're using multiple servers or an external SQL server. But for the small stuff, we can just leave those as they are. And that has actually created our config.php. So now it's ready to go. Confirm these and understood them. Now we're going to have one more problem in just a second, but we have a look here. Installation, Moodle 3.11.4 build. This is the build, the latest code. And if we look through our list here of things that are okay, we get down to the bottom and there's this one here. Max input vars should be at least 5,000. It is not. So let's go and change that. So this is actually going to be found in a file /etc/php/7.4 fpm php.ini initiation. And I don't think I have that written in the cheat sheet. Oh, I probably should. But anyway, this is the PHP's initialization file. So this is where all the settings are. And if you scroll down enough, it's a fair way down, you'll see this section on resource limits. And here, inside of here, there's this max input vars one here. And you can just change that to say, 6,000, or I just usually add a 0 on the end. It's okay. Doesn't really matter that much. And there are other things as well that you might want to do, like change the memory limit to, say, 256. But not so much if you're using a really small server. But I mean, these other things like the timeouts, like 30 seconds for a timeout is pretty short. So you might want to change these ones as well. I mean, a lot of these are sort of judgment calls and how you use them. Which is the best setting? Defaults are actually pretty good, but if you want to tweak your server and everything, these are the sorts of things that you might need to tweak later. But generally, if you're not having problems with them, they're usually fairly good. If you're doing a bigger server, a much bigger server, you might find that, for example, the pool settings for PHP FPM are ridiculously low. I mean, it's set to like max children is 5. And so that means that 5 processes can operate to serve all the PHP requests ever. And if you've got a couple of thousand users, so that's going to be pretty low. So you might want to bump that up a bit. But anyway, I'm not going to do that stuff because that's too much work for tonight. So I am going to restart the PHP part of the service. PHP 7.4 fpm.service. Now this restarts the PHP, and once that's reloaded, that error message will go away. So let's have a look there. If we refresh that screen, ha! Beautiful, and we're green all the way through. So there we go, and now it's actually installing the Moodle. Oh. So if I have a look in here, okay, I should probably bring that down a bit. And you can see things are actually working. That's PHP FPM. That's CPU usage. It's pretty hot because it's actually doing all the things to set up all the... Okay, and it's done. Okay, and now we can set up a username. I am going to use my own name, Adam. Should do something here. Okay, okay. Let's see. I'm going to generate a password. Okay, is that enough? Probably is. Adam Wisecat, why not? Fill out the necessary fields, but don't worry about the others. Server time zone is good. Okay, update profile. Ooh, must at least one special character. I didn't have a special character. Okay, I'll just add the biggity mark to the end of that. Doesn't matter. Okay, and that's done. And Wisecat's new Moodle. I might do that, and I'll just put the same short name for the site as well in there. Here's the time zone stuff, and so the time zone is where I am is Asia, Tokyo. Yes, I am in Japan, the land of the rising sun. So there we go. Save it, and once I've saved that, now it's done. Wisecat's new Moodle is online. The first thing I'll be asked to do is site registration. Yeah, bite me. It's a, well, I mean, normally I would encourage people to do the registration. Site registration is a good idea. You can get, if there's a security issue or something, you get an email from Moodle HQ. Kind of makes you feel like you're in the big boys club. Great stuff. But for a test Moodle site or for a demonstration on YouTube, not really necessary. So, because especially this server has like, it's on death row. It's got 15 minutes to live, and then it's going to be gone. So with Wisecat's new Moodle, I now have my Moodle up and running, and that's it. It's working. It's working. You can go to the reports and things like that and check out how things are going to move. One that you might want to do is the security checks, and we'll see that config.php is writable. And that's an issue there, and so we'll fix that in just a second. Executable paths, this can be fixed in different ways as well. So if you want to improve the security, there are still things to do, but most of them are okay. Most of them are not really going to be an issue. So to change the writable config PHP, we go to where our Moodle code is in www here, and if we look in our Moodle folder, you can see this one here is owned by www data and group www. This www data here has a writable flag attached to it. That's because the www data web user actually created it. And so what we want to do is change the mode of that file minus the writability config.php. Et voila. And that one there has taken away our writable config PHP. If I redo these security checks, and now that's golden. And so the other security checks I have actually done in another video. I went through all of these. Link in the description below if I can find it. If I remember to find it. Okay, the other thing that we do have to do, there's one last little piece of housekeeping, and if we go to the notifications page, we'll see what it is. This one here is extremely important. The admin CLI cron script has never been run and should be run every minute. Okay, so cron is an important one, and cron is one of the most frequently forgotten ones. So don't forget to add your cron script. Link, not link in the description. I'm going to just have the comment, don't forget to add a cron job. I'll leave an example entry for it, and I'm going to do that pretty much now. So let's make that bigger again. So the way to add a cron job is a cron job goes into the cron tab. And what it basically is a timed way of executing a command. Moodle uses it to do scheduled tasks and maintenance and cleanups and those sorts of things. That's why it's really important. Actually, if you want to see one of the examples of that, if we go back to our home here, for example, and go to the content bank and adds grayed out. I can't add any H5P. Why? Well, the reason is if you go to server scheduled tasks, there is a task in here. One of the tasks in here is to download the H5P. Unused H5P. Download available content from types from h5p.org. So this actually gets all of those content types. Now this is actually scheduled to run at 2 minutes past the hour. Anyway, this is scheduled to run at this time. It has never been run. If this runs though. If this job runs, we'll get all those H5P things. So that's useful. That's nice. So if we don't have a cron job, that will never get run. We'll never have any additional H5P functionality. And all these cleanup things and all these automated backups and all these other functionality will be broken forever. It's so sad. So let's add a cron job. Definitely you want to add a cron job. And the way is sudo -u, because you want to be the web user to do this, which is www.data cron tab -e. Cron tab edit. Right, and here we are. And the problems with history file, don't care. What we really want to do is add this line here. So this is star, 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 star. There are 5 of them separated by spaces, and that means every minute of every hour of every day of the month, of every month, of every day of the week, run this command. And this command is PHP this and this and this and this and this and this. So PHP, command line PHP. The advantage being that the command line PHP doesn't have those timeouts, like that pesky 30-second thing. So it can take 5 minutes if it wants to. Run the Moodle PHP script, which is admin CLI cron.php. Run that Moodle code. And dump the output of that to /dev/null, which is on Linux. That's a black hole. There's just stuff goes in, never comes out again. And do that with all the content, including whether it's a standard output content or standard error content as well. That's what this little funky bit here does. Just make sure that nothing escapes the sentence to the black hole. Sort of. Okay, so I'm going to save that and exit, and the cron job's set up. Right? What you can do, if you're worried about, did I get the command right? Is this actually going to be functional? What you can do is you can also copy that part of it between the PHP and the cron.php, in between PHP to PHP, and then you can do sudo -u www-data, because we want to run it as the web server user, and you can run that command manually. That's it running. And if you do that, you can actually even see what all of the cron jobs are, what this time's running of cron is actually doing. So it's doing things like scheduled task complete, background processing for a legacy cron in plagiarism plugins. And the H5P one would not be there because it's not time to run it yet. It's not 12:02 p.m. But yeah, so now we can actually see that something like that is run. And if I run it a second time, there we go. That's twice, at least twice within a minute and stuff like that. So our Moodle should at least stop complaining that cron has never been run. If we go to the notifications page, yeah, that message that was there before, cron has never been run, gonskis. And if we go to the server admin area, scheduled tasks, we can actually start seeing now in the last run lineup here, last run on this date, last run on this date, where you can actually see, I did tell you it was getting late, right? You can tell when these things were run. They're run this late at night time when I'm actually recording this. So yeah, it's getting a bit late, but yeah, better go. And that is it. That is a fully functioning Moodle now. So you can add courses, you can do whatever you need to do, add plugins, etc. You can install plugins from the overview, the Moodle plugins directory, whatever you need. And this server will cost $5 per month. Right, so that's Wisecat's new Moodle right there. Now, I'll log out of that now. Let's say you've come in, you've had your play with Moodle, building your own Moodle on a Linode server, and now you're saying, well, yeah, but okay, the 60 days is up and I don't want to play anymore. I'm ready to stop being charged for this server. I don't want it to cost me any more money. What do you do? Well, you hit the 3 dots, go to delete Linode. And that's it. You will not be charged for that server anymore, ever again. So, me making this for you guys tonight basically means that Linode there cost me perhaps about 2 cents. So, not worried about it. Okay, so That's it. Woe to go. What I really wanted to do, what I set out to do earlier tonight when I actually started recording videos, was to try and show exactly how you can go from zero infrastructure, zero server, zero anything, all the way through to fully working Moodle. And try to keep it fairly simple, but at the same time show enough of the items that it would be educational. There are many other avenues that I could have gone down that I didn't, and trust me, I really, the geek inside of me really wanted to go down those avenues. It was hard to keep a hold on myself and control. But yeah, so if you're interested in that sort of stuff, Moodle Moot Japan's coming up in February. Come on down and, you know, say hello to me. Let's get some beers and talk server. That'd be fun. Yeah. All right. Anyway, otherwise, I'll see you around the traps. Happy moodling. So, oh, where's that stop button? There it is. Okay, catch you next time. Bye.